Hi everyone, I'm here today to talk to you about The Dark Maestro, Brendan Slocum's new book. I am so thankful that I got this arc sent my way. I was so excited to read it. If you know anything about me or if you've ever been on this page before, Symphony of Secrets was my favorite read from last year, and I just was so elated to pick this one up. I just could not wait. I am so excited that I get to talk to you guys about it. So, without revealing too much, the general plot summary of this book is our main character, Curtis, is a cello prodigy. He has been playing and successfully playing at like an expert level, the cello, since he was like 4 years old. He is amazing at music, about picking up like pacing, tune, all of that stuff. He's amazing at it. But particularly, he has a passion for the cello. He loves to play the cello. He is, like I said, a prodigy. He gets selected for like the National Orchestra, things like that. So he is just absolutely amazing at what he does. And he does this despite the odds because he lives in the projects of Washington, D.C., as described by this author. And he has a father who is involved in some illicit activity when it comes to like drug dealing and stuff like that. And his father does this because he is a single father who cannot provide for his son without doing so. And so in hopes of trying to get his son out of this life, he does what he needs to make money for their family. Curtis also has a very supportive, I don't want to call her stepmother because Curtis's father is not married to her, but woman in his life named Larissa. She is by far my favorite character in this book. She was just a shining example of a strong woman. I loved her. I loved everything she did. She was just a gripping character. Like, I wanted more from her as I was reading this book. And so those are our kind of three main characters: Curtis, Larissa, and then Curtis's dad, Zippy. And they are all very different when it comes to their perspectives, their personalities, and everything. But one thing that they are is family. They love each other. They are there for each other. They support each other, and they do what they can to succeed together and everything. And so at some point, Zippy becomes involved beyond just drug dealing. He gets involved in other incriminating things that are far more serious than drug dealing, and the FBI comes knocking, and he agrees to be an informant, and in doing so they have to be put in WITSEC, the Witness Protection Program. And because of this, because of Curtis's fame, he has to disappear, which means he can no longer play the cello for the public, which is his absolute passion. And this book is kind of the fallout of what that means for him and what ensues from that and everything. And that is what I anticipated for this book. That's what the back of the book kind of gives you and everything, but I will say this book has a massive turn, and it becomes more of a love letter to comic books, which is very intriguing. I wasn't super anticipating that just from what I had garnered from like the synopsis of the book or anything, but I found it interesting. I found it to be somewhat expected just based off of the childhood Curtis that we learn about in this book, but it takes an even deeper turn at some point, and Curtis himself starts to kind of play act a superhero, and that is unfortunately where this book kind of lost me. I was super in it up until that moment, and the moment that it became more about like vigilantism, I was kind of out. I became a little bit more disappointed with it. It became a little more implausible, quite frankly, and I'm totally fine with an implausible book. But when 80% of it is plausible and then the last 20% is not so plausible, I get a little frustrated because I'm like, okay, which one is it? So I will say I was a little disappointed by that, but not in a way where like I would not pick this book up. I still think it was worth the read. It was very interesting. Slocum does an amazing job with the music theory in this book and like everything that he talks about. He really just imbues that into you. But like I said, at some point it kind of went off tune. Haha, get it? Because it's a music book. For me. And it was a little unfortunate because, like I said, this was like one of my most highly anticipated books for the year. And at the end of the day, I think it's only a 3-star read for me. However, I think if you were to go into it, unlike me, with the knowledge that this turns into something implausible, that it kind of turns more into a comic book-esque story rather than what his previous 2 other books were about, then you may enjoy it more than I did, and that's just because you have a little bit more knowledge going in. And therefore, this is no knock on Brendan Slocum. Like, I think I just personally, this was just not it for me while I was reading it. That does not mean that I will not be picking up his future books, because even though it wasn't for me, it's still a 3-star read, which is, I think, amazing. Like, I think that's crazy that I finished it thinking like I didn't like the ending, I wasn't a super big fan, and yet it's still at a 3 out of 5 for me because it's written amazingly well and the characters were great. Therefore, I'm not counting Brendan Slocum out. He's still like an auto-buy author for me. I am still very, very excited to see the future works that he does and everything that he comes out with in the future. Therefore, I don't want this to be like a knock on him or a knock on this book at all. If you think you might be interested in it, I would still pick it up. I just want you to have this like forewarning that it is not similar to the previous 2 books if you enjoyed those 2. With that being said, I must say, this is a solid cover, okay? Once you start reading this book, when you finish it, come back, look at the cover, and be like, okay, the cover slays. They did a really good job with the cover design on this one, and I find that super impressive. I really love when like the story ties back to the cover extremely well, and I think that this book did that. So I'm gonna leave it at that because I think that's an extremely positive place to leave this. I cannot thank the publisher enough for sending this my way. I cannot thank Brendan Slocum enough for sending this my way. I am very, very appreciative to have had early access to this book, and I cannot wait, like I said, to see more of what Slocum comes out with in the future.